I'm walking through the Ray fight as every role in every position. Watch this video to win more games of Pokemon Unite to climb up the ranks. Knowing what to do at every single point on this Rayquaza fight is extremely difficult, so if you're not 100% sure at what you should be doing, then you should be watching this guide from start to finish, taking notes to make sure you can climb and you can help carry you and your team. So without wasting any more time, let's jump back to the start of this clip and learn how to play the Rayquaza fight properly. First things first, you must understand your role, whether you're a tank, support, range damage, brawler, or assassin. Always have the map awareness and look at where your team is. In this game, I'm the range damage dealer, so I cannot be frontlining for my team. Now, seeing as the bottom pad is up, I'm going to be playing in a winning position, which means that I'm going to be floating around these bottom bushes, looking to follow up the damage that my tanks are doing. If I was playing in a passive position, I would be standing a little further back in my jungle, still within the range of my tanks, because I need to make sure I'm doing damage when they are tanking all the damage from the enemy. And lastly, if our team was hard winning, I would be standing in aggressive positioning, which is what you're going to see towards the end of this Ray fight. I'm up on their half of the map, sometimes even in their jungle, but you're only in their jungle if your team is there as well. Here I am playing in my winning positioning, which means I'm defending my goal zone and I'm forcing the enemy to overcommit. We are ahead on score, which means the enemy need to either rip the objective or they need to score some points. So the easiest way to defend against that is defend your pad, but also make sure that you're close enough to the Rayquaza pit so they can't just rip it on spawn. Now we get the kills and we have to look at what we're doing. Here I wanted to rip the Ray, but my team wasn't there to do it, so we repositioned. Here I'm taking an aggressive positioning, but I'm making sure that I'm standing behind my team, doing damage from the backline. They're soaking the damage, I'm dealing it. And I've got to make sure that I'm not getting myself caught where there's any bushes where the enemy could be standing. So you see everywhere I'm standing, I'm making sure that my team is with me. Here you can see we've picked up some kills for the second time and their Mewtwo is looking for a score. That means that we can get some score down bottom so that we are maintaining our score lead over the enemies. This means that we can maintain our fighting position and we don't have to worry. Now I've taken aggressive positioning here, but I've remembered that I need to be behind my team, so I quickly maneuver back. Here you can see that we're kind of getting pincered by the Mewtwo here, so we're just playing as smart as we can. I'm putting myself into a position where I'm away from the enemies, but I'm close enough to do some damage while the tanks front line for me. As our tanks go into their mid, we have to follow that up with some damage. And that's exactly what we do. Our tank sacrifices himself, but we manage to get the ace on their team and put score in their goal zone. That is the perfection, that is the solo queue dream. And this is what can happen if we have a community where everyone understands how to play the Rayquaza fight. And if you're getting some value from this Rayquaza guide so far, give the video a like, share it with a friend, and even consider being a subscriber. Hopefully this guide can help you climb a little bit more in the solo queue. Now let's consider a game when I am not exactly winning and I'm using a supportive Pokemon. Here you can see my positioning is kind of in the middle of my team. I need to make sure that my heals are within like a 360-degree radius and I can dive on to help whichever teammate needs the most help. Now the person that you're initially looking to help is your tank, because they're going to be taking the first bit of damage, so a portal for them is very good. If you wanted to take a more aggressive positioning, you could be in the middle of your team in the enemy jungle, or you could be positioning yourself in that top bush near where the enemy would enter from their jungle. Let's talk through this one in real time. Here you can see I'm looking to put that portal down for my team to be able to get out. We're behind on score, which means we need to be the ones initiating a fight, or we need to be the ones getting some score in, so we can leverage that positioning advantage back at the Rayquaza. This fight has begun because I poked the bush and I was able to get out through that portal. We've put the enemy in a compromising position, and that's allowed our team to pick up some kills. I'm always putting portals down, and I'm always keeping an eye on my teammates' health. I haven't used my Unite move and we've killed 4. At this point it's time to rip. I use every bit of resource to make sure I am able to do this and get the Rayquaza. But even at this point, the game is still not over because we need to be able to score. Now I'm making sure I'm not going there in my Hooper unbound, I'm making sure I'm going there in my regular Hooper. Remember, if you don't get your score in, you're not going to be able to win the game. Their Mew has made an amazing defensive play, but ultimately I need to get some score in. Here you can see the Umbreon gets 100 and it's still a close battle, so I need to get my score in. I've managed to position myself in there with the Phantom Force, and I had to make sure I did that nice and quickly before other people respawned, otherwise they could have stopped my score there. Now after you get your score in, you need to make sure that you are actively defending your goal zone. Here I'm farming for my Unite move, and I'm able to do that very quickly because I know the enemy isn't going to be there soon enough. But I've only got a 15-second window to do that. That's what I'm able to do so I can have this extra resource to help defend against the enemy. In this case, we probably didn't need that extra resource because we had enough of our team there defending, and I didn't really need that extra damage. But a lot of the time, that's enough to win you the game. Just make sure that you're not letting the enemy score while you're farming that Unite move. Let's consider a game where we are playing a brawler role. Now my first point initially was remember to be map aware. Look at the map and see where your team is. As you can see, my Ninetales is being pestered by a Dodrio near our main base. The Dodrio is definitely going to win that fight and look to put some score in our base goal. Their team is behind, and this is a really smart play because they need to win on score and they can easily push our first tier during this Ray fight in the bottom lane. Now let's talk about the positioning we'd really want to do here. We've got a score lead and we're playing that Assassin Brawler role, so we're hoping to actually dive into the enemy backline after our tank, support and mage damage have initiated a fight, because their health is going to get low and you're going to pincer them from their back line so they can't get away. Now if you're playing this from a losing standpoint, your positioning would be a little more passive, but essentially it's the same thing. You're hoping that your tank will engage with your support, enemy will look to do some damage onto you. If your backline can do some burst damage and your tank holds them up in the area, you can sweep in and assassinate them to pick off those KOs. Now let's watch this fight play out. I make the quick decision to base because I want to make sure our team has a score advantage. The Dodrio looks to run into our base, and I'm really looking to just stop this score and use the resource that this Dodrio has. He's used his Unite move. Good thing I'm a Mewtwo fighting on my base. I'm able to win that fairly easily. Our team's initiated a fight, and as you can tell from the health bar at the top, they're struggling a little bit, so I launch off my Unite move. Now at this point, the fight's looking pretty promising. As we can see, we get another kill, so our team has 3 alive, their team has 2. I figure it's the perfect time to rip that Rayquaza before their Espeon, Dodrio and Mewtwo come back. That's their main source of securing this objective, so I figure if we're going to flip it, we definitely have the advantage with the numbers, but we also had a Unite move up our sleeves. Now at this point, the game's not over. You need to make sure you're getting your score in. This Dodrio has honestly played exceptionally well. I just have a Rayquaza shield there, but he's done pretty well to break as much of it as he can. The Mewtwo pulls me in, breaks my Rayquaza shield, and at this point I figure we can probably win the fight because we've got 2 people on his pad and I'm about to Mega Evolve. We get the kill, we look to get the score in if we can, and you're going to see this is just ridiculous that Mewtwo can survive this. I'm on low health. I figure it's best to get away and defend rather than die because there's still 45 seconds left. Yes, the score's always tempting, but saving 100 points is just as good as scoring 100 points. So now we've got this 30 seconds left. The enemy team's got 3 dead. They actually have enough time to push into our bottom goal zone. So we've got to be very careful. Our Sizzle is providing amazing vision on their Dodrio. Again, I'm doing a quick farm here to get a Unite move, and I'm looking to rush into this bottom pad. I figure if I've got the Mewtwo Unite move, I'm going to be able to launch that, and that will stop them from scoring. So as you can see, that last 10 seconds, that extra resource is usually pretty helpful for making sure the enemy team can't make that final push. As you can see, I'm pretty much the only one alive down there, and we're able to hold that off because we did the damage to the enemies. Now, final game here, I'm going to be showing a more traditional healer and your positioning. As you can see, map awareness, straight away I know this fight is going to be a little bit delayed because our team is pushing in that top lane and we've got vision on the enemy. You position yourself probably in the bottom bush here because you don't have a bottom goal zone to defend, and you also don't have a goal zone to push, and typically your other brawlers are going to be standing in those top bushes, so you can throw a Pollen Puff and a Cotton Guard and run towards them when the enemy try and converge on them. Could take some aggressive positioning here where the Sylveon and the Mewtwo are frontlining more in their choke point. You're sitting in the bottom bush, so you've got vision on them running into this middle area, and your Venusaur is kind of safely playing from the back line. You've only got to be careful for a sweep from the enemy from the top lane, but typically this will not happen unless if you're playing in a fairly sophisticated 5-stack game. Now let's talk through this gameplay here. I get that level 12, I make sure I've got the Unite move, and we're looking to delay the fight here. We've got the score lead, and I'm looking to take our winning positioning here, which is standing in this bottom bush, or at least floating in the middle, to let the enemies know, hey, we're here, you can engage on us. But ultimately we're not looking to engage because we need our slow bro back, and we're playing fairly passive at this point until our slow bro can come in. The Mewtwo engages, and that's straight away when the Polen Puff and the shields come onto him. I'm utilizing my Unite move to make sure I'm keeping that Mewtwo alive. I give him the Buddy Barrier, I give him some more shielding, and as you can see, if the Mewtwo didn't have all of that healing and support, he would have died a lot sooner. The enemy throw a lot of resources at us to try and take care of him. Ultimately, the Sylveon was able to dance around and do a lot of cleanup. We get the ace on the enemy team, and they surrender because they know it's all over. Now, if you've stuck around for the entire video, I hope you've gotten some value out of positioning at the Rayquaza, dependent on what your role is and where your team is positioning. And most importantly, I hope you've gotten some value from looking at the map and being map aware of when the fight is going to start at the Rayquaza. Stick around, click on another video, learn some more about Pokemon Unite so you can continue to climb and get better and carry your team to more victory.